John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hello, my name is John Ulzheimer. I am a consumer credit expert. I have been in the credit industry for almost 30 years. Spent time at FICO and Equifax. FICO obviously is the company behind the FICO credit scoring system, and Equifax is one of the 3 recognized credit reporting agencies. All right, today I'm going to talk about a term that some of you may not be familiar with and frankly may have never heard before: credit invisible. A credit invisible, it's not really a pejorative term, meaning it's not an insult. It's meant to indicate that you have either a lack of a credit report or a lack of a scorable credit report. So let's dig into the number of people that actually fit the definition of a credit invisible. According to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or the CFPB, 1 out of every 10 adults or consumers who are older than 18 are a credit invisible, meaning that either they have no credit file at all, which is 26 million people, or they don't have a scorable credit file, which is 19 million people. So when you add these two together, oh boy, 45 million meet the definition of a credit invisible. So some of you may be asking, whoa, wait a minute here. What's the difference between no file and an unscorable file? Well, there's a huge difference. No file means legitimately you are not in the credit reporting agency's systems at all. You have never established any form of credit that was reported to them, and therefore they have no file on you. You're not born with a credit report, right? Your credit report is created the first time you actually go out and apply for some form of credit, and then you have the file, and then as you accumulate credit throughout your consumer credit life cycle, more and more stuff makes it into the file, and that's where the bulk of the information on your credit report comes from. So for people who have no file, they don't even exist in the eyes of the credit reporting agencies. They are in fact credit invisible. 26 million people, that's quite a few. People who are not scorable, all right, let's talk about this. In order for you to be scored under either the FICO credit scoring system or the VantageScore credit scoring system, your credit report must meet certain minimum criteria. So just because you have a credit file doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be scorable or you're going to qualify for a score. You have to meet a few criteria. So let me give you the criteria for FICO, for example. First off, you have to be alive, meaning that you can't have any sort of deceased indicator on your credit report. Second, you have to have at least one undisputed trade line, not collection, one undisputed trade line, so an account with an actual lender that is older than 6 months. And you also have to have at least one undisputed account that has been updated within the past 6 months. One account can qualify you under those 2 criteria. So if you opened an American Express card 5 years ago and it just got updated last month with the credit bureaus and you're not dead, then you have a scorable credit report, okay? There are people, however, who have gone inactive with their credit, meaning that they haven't used credit in a really long time, and even though they may have a credit file, they don't have any recent activity, therefore they are not scorable. So when you add the no files with the unscorables, you have 45 million people. So what's the downside to being a credit invisible? Well, the downside is assuming someday that you actually do want to apply for and get credit from a mainstream lender, they're going to want to see a credit report and a credit score. If you don't have any of that information, then you're really asking them to almost manually underwrite any sort of application that you would submit and almost take a leap of faith in doing some sort of credit business with you, because you have nothing to look at and to evaluate whether you're a high risk or a low risk. So you might be declined outright, or you might be approved with disadvantageous terms, so things like higher down payments, more aggressive account management, lower credit limits, lower loan amounts. So it is not a romantic thing to be a no file or an unscorable or a credit invisible. It's actually, there's a whole lot more downside than there is upside. So what's the solution? How do you become credit visible? Well, to the extent that you actually want to become credit visible and you're not just, living off the credit grid as a choice, as a life choice, there are a ton of ways that you can become credit visible. Number one is you can become an authorized user on somebody else's credit card. That will, assuming that the lender actually reports accounts to the authorized user's credit reports, then you will immediately have a credit report. It will probably be scoreable depending on the age and then the update activity of the account. And therefore you'll have a FICO score or a Vantage score, credit score, if you have anything else. And then you'll be able to then function within the world of credit as a credit visible rather than a credit invisible. So authorized user, I'm gonna go ahead and write that down. Authorized user. Next is a secured credit card. You can apply for a secured credit card. You make a deposit with some sort of a bank or credit union. They issue you a credit card with a credit limit that's equal to or very close to the deposit you made. Then they report that to the 3 credit bureaus and boom, you have a credit file and you're probably scoreable. That's another way. Third, credit builder loans. Credit builder loans are uncommon. Not a lot of people know about them, but most credit unions have some sort of a credit builder loan program where you take out a very small dollar loan, $500, $1,000. You pay it back over the period of maybe a year to 2 years, so it's a very short amortization schedule. Your monthly payment is usually really, really low, and they report your repayment activity to the credit reporting agencies every month. Therefore, you are building credit, hence the term credit builder loan. Retail store credit cards are pretty easy to get, even if you have no credit. The limits are usually really low and their interest rates are usually pretty high, usually in the 20s. So, don't carry a balance month to month on those if you do choose to open those and use those because they become very expensive. But nonetheless, these are all viable solutions on how to turn a credit invisible to a credit visible. How do I know if I'm a credit visible or credit invisible? Very simple. Go to annualcreditreport.com, write that down, annualcreditreport.com, enter your information. If they are able to find a file for you, they'll give you a copy of it. If you don't have a credit report, then obviously they're not going to have a file on you and they're not going to be able to deliver anything to you. Then you'll know straight away, I'm a credit invisible. If you know that you have never, ever had any sort of relationship with any bank, any lender, any debt collector, any utility company that reports to the big 3 credit bureaus, any apartment complex that doesn't report to the big credit bureaus, it's you've never co-signed for anybody, it's very, very likely that you are in fact a credit invisible and you're not going to be able to find a credit report, you're not going to have a credit score, and you may find it harder to get loans and extensions of credit from mainstream lenders. If you ever want a loan someday, meaning you want a house and you can't pay cash for it, who can? If you want a car and you can't pay cash for it, who can? If you want to fund your education, which is very, very expensive in some states and for some colleges and universities, or if you want to walk around with a plastic with credit card instead of gobs of cash, these are all upsides to having access to credit, right? So being a credit visible is actually a better situation to be in than being a credit invisible. So if you have any questions about that, leave them in the comment section below. I'll be happy to get to them. If you have any topic ideas, leave them in the section below. May make a video out of it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. Have a good one.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.